Hi, today the main topic is the SSGV CSR. Um, I took I took a video, and that was really about like SSGV the CSR, and that was like 2 days ago. But I think it's really better to explain those kind of topics because this is really important and really huge factor in this front end and web development industry. If you're a front end engineer, you wanna and and you don't know what kind of CSR, SSG, and SSR, you're kind of need more study. So and I think it's better to explain with the with this video and some kind of example of our service. Why do we need SSG with the CSR? And why we need Next.js to create the SSR, whatever SSG? Um, this is because the limitation of the CSR, the client-side rendering is basically example. There's a your fancy website. Client-side rendering. Let me just try to screenshot this part, and let's say this is our website looks like, and let me just try to wait. Hold on, I'm just gonna delete this part. Let me just yeah. No, this is pretty ugly. Let me just try to delete. Looks like. Oh, this is taking so much long. Yes. Let's say your target website is like this. It just looks like this. So the client-side rendering is basically to draw this. We have to use HTML and CSS, and also sometimes we need JavaScript. The client-side rendering, the CSR is basically we use React and basically let JS to do almost everything. So what do you mean do everything? Even putting the style, you can just put style using JS. So even the styling, you use JS. Style, use JS. And also HTML, drawing HTML, use JS. Whatever, and those kind of thing, even those kind of thing is really kind of explanation of the CSR. But the problem is that it really heavily relies on the JavaScript. JavaScript is just a runtime language that if you're trying to, if it's like thread render, if it is like let's say this is render process in your browser application, and this is the main thread of the render process, because in the main render process it draw and start the website, but it already happens in the one main thread. So your HTML is gonna be executed first, of course. Your HTML is this part, and next your JavaScript is gonna go here. Since these SSR, CSR means that JavaScript is the one who do everything, which also means that there is only minimal HTML and there's lots of big JavaScript chunks on it. Why is that is the issue? To draw, if you look at how the React looks like, there's one HTML in the file, but if you look at closely, there's only div id app. It also stands for let JavaScript to open HTML by selecting this kind of app ID, and also this means that the first loading the web page there's only HTML, which is div id app and other things, but at the body or there's div id app. So to render some kind of fancy page like those page, the CSR means that it uses JavaScript to render a page. But what if there's more JavaScript chunks? And if there's a lot of it, and if it takes so long time, you have to think about like optimization of the reducing JavaScript chunks. But also there's kind of limitation of it, since even though you reduce the time cost of the JavaScript, so you eventually append HTML at the runtime. But if it's like SEO, you cannot really put the SEO or make it SEO efficiently using CSR, because the browser crawler look the dry HTML and enhance the SEO. But if the JavaScript basically means that the user execute the JavaScript, and it's gonna be rendered HTML dynamically rather than static build HTML. So curl doesn't put the great SEO in the CSR, because JavaScript, it has to be run JavaScript to read the HTML. So there was an issue of it. So and the SSG is basically means that nowadays SSG is basically means that, well, if it doesn't require a big interactivity, why do we have to still rely on the JavaScript to draw some kind of like fancy card? For example, those kind of thing, however, it doesn't require JavaScript. It's just this thing actually requires JavaScript, but those kind of button and the hover and those kind of stuff doesn't require JavaScript. It doesn't really need JavaScript to make this. So the SSG is basically make the dry HTML or the build HTML rather than at the build time. So it's basically, let's say to draw this kind of website, we need we need this kind of cost of it. But since it doesn't require some kind of really big interactivity, we actually only need JavaScript to add interactivity. But other than that, we don't really have to run JavaScript to make this page at the runtime. So the SSG basically means that it reads JavaScript chunk, but it is only interactivity part, but make the HTML or a pre-rendered and pre-styled page like that at the build time. So you don't have to think about let JavaScript to run. You don't think about make HTML while the running the JavaScript. You just have to, or the build HTML, and you just have to let the browser to read your HTML and renders the page, and that's more fast and simple. Interactivity you can just put in here, and those kind of things. So that's kind of really good thing about SSG. And also you can think about like SEO strategy. If you in the Next.js page router, you can see the built pre-rendered HTML. So you can really enhance those kind of things by reading your SEO, by reading your or the built HTML tags and the names and attributes also out. And moreover, you can just look at the meta tag or the build HTMLs, and you can think about what I have to do to increase the SEO part. So those kind of thing is really kind of why do we need some kind of SSG strategy with the CSR? You can use SSR, but that requires server. You really have to think about wisely when trying to build some kind of fancy your web application for the user. SSR is not really silver bullet. It requires server rather than the normal static server. We use the Nginx rather than the static server. It only requires the one single thread, and it basically use event async event based. The Nginx using that, but SSR means that it has to pre-rendered. You have not pre-rendered. You have to make an HTML every single request. That also means that that is the server, and you have to think about it. You have to think about what if there's more traffic. You have to think about load balancer. You have to think about the CPU rate of the those kind of server, because it costs more than the normal static server. You have, because normal static server, it doesn't require always it doesn't open the sockets or like that, because when you're trying to open the server, normal like SSR server, it requires the listen some kind of request, and it opens socket, and there's gonna be IPC on your operating system, and there's gonna more process of it. If it's a SSR, it requires some kind of expensive or calculation to draw HTML, and that is more CPU costly. So you have to think about really wisely of SSG, SSR, and CSR. A lot of big tech company uses the SSG with the CSR. So this kind of explanation about why we need to know about SSG with the CSR, and what's the benefit of it. So this is a habit. Have a nice day. See you next time. Bye bye.